Hello, Paul. Nice to meet you again for a short interview.
Yes, no, really good to see you after so long, after our last series.
This time, I will tell you, last days I was asking a few questions, very general questions for a few third-party IATF auditors. And there is one very special question which I thought it will be good to address to someone very, very experienced, like you. So let me ask you the question. Maybe you will you will reveal something what you feel about IATF. How do you think what would be the future, or what should be the future direction of IATF standard?
Wow, great question. So yeah, I think one thing that we can take for certain is that we will see a revision of IATF 16949 in the next few years. I don't think there's any definitive timing for that, but I think we will see a revision. And I very much hope that IATF continue to elect to keep the fundamental ISO 9001 Plan, Do, Check, Act structure, incorporating the process approach and risk-based thinking. I think that's become so ingrained now that it would be a shame if they introduce a different model. So that is really my hope, that we will see a revision, but they will keep that fundamental structure.
This is actually incorporating in the aim of the IATF standard itself, to have a development and improvement of quality management system, which actually works very well with this PDCA cycle.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the other thing that they have to take into account in making any revision, it's almost like a watershed now, that the automotive industry is a very complex industry now. So we have what I would call metal components, we have electronic components, we have components with embedded software, we have bulk materials, and trying to write a set of quality management system requirements that are suitable for all sectors of the automotive industry, I think is going to become increasingly difficult. And if we think back in history, historically, IATF did have semiconductor supplement, for example, to the old ISO TS 16949, where there was the core requirements and then there was a supplement for an industry sector. And I think that's something that IATF have to take into account in considering any revision. Do we still try and write a generic standard that would satisfy all components of the automotive industry, or do we have some core requirements supplemented by sector requirements, for example, the semiconductor supplement?
Actually, this what you're saying can be done somehow in excluding some of the non-applicable clauses of the IATF. For instance, with the embedded software, the metal components will not work for this, yes?
Yeah,
So this is
yeah,
exactly what you're saying.
yeah, yeah. As a consideration for IATF, I don't think they've made any decisions around that. But I think now is a really important time to decide that strategic direction or future of IATF 16949. And I think one thing that IATF have to do is to break the mold about thinking about widgets. If we read the IATF requirements, they're very much written around what I would call traditional components. But because of the complexity now of the automotive industry, we have to change that thinking. If one day we want the requirements to apply to a bulk material supplier, the next day a very technical organization making very complex, electronic components with embedded software, and then the next day what I would call a metal basher or an injection molding company, we have to get away from just thinking about widgets and think about all the aspects of the automotive supply chain.
There is also something which is on my mind about the future direction of the standard, customer-specific requirements. So far, right now, they're very comprehensive. We have 11 OEMs. They're working in groups, and there's a lot. really. What do you think about this? Should be some change in the approach?
Yeah. I know, definitely. And I think my view I've made several times that I think customer specifics are out of control because no other certification scheme would allow 83,000 certified organizations to write their own customer specific requirements, which could add or interpret an IATF requirement. So customer specifics are not just the IATF OEM members, anybody can write them. And if they write them, then they become part of the audit scope. And I think it's just got out of control and it's impossible for auditors to do effective audits of customer specifics because in many cases, they can't verify if the organization is working to the latest edition. So my dream would be that they would exclude customer specifics from the scheme. But if they don't do that, then I hope they would limit the auditing of customer specifics only to be applicable for audits of the suppliers of the IATF OEM members. I think that would make it more practical. And although anybody could have customer specifics, they wouldn't be part of the audit scope. So that is my dream, but whether it will ever become a reality, I'm not sure.
Okay, and this was interesting, what you said. I really like your prediction, maybe, let's call it.
Yeah, I think that's really all we can call it. I can't tell you this with any authority, but if I did have a vote on IATF, my vote would be to have the core IATF requirements, have annexes for the key industry sectors that feed into automotive, and then limit the range of customer specific requirements. I think that would become much easier for the management of the scheme, for auditor qualification. So auditors would then be qualified as an IATF auditor, and then they would have the sector codes relevant to the different sectors of the industry.
Good. Okay, Paul, thank you very much for your answer. I invite you to read and also to watch the answers of other auditors, which I also asked the same question, like this one. Maybe they will say something interesting for you as well.
Yeah, it would be good to see it from an auditor perspective as well. I think some of the people that you've interviewed are people that historically I know very well and have trained. So I'll be really interested to see their views.
Yes. The people who you know. Okay, thank you very much, Paul. And
I enjoyed the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.